Before the ratification process or approval process of the Constitution could begin, two distinct groups had formed and needed to reach one final compromise. One of the groups was the Federalists, who supported ratification of the Constitution as it was written. The Federalists included property owners, merchants, creditors. Some of the most notable ones were Alexander Hamilton, James Madison, and John Jay. And then anti-Federalists opposed the Constitution as it currently stood, and there were a few reasons. One, they felt that it weakened states' power. They believed that the government would be run by wealthy elites, and the majority of anti-Federalists included small farmers, frontiersmen, shopkeepers. And lastly, they felt that there was not anything in the Constitution that guaranteed the protection of certain civil liberties and rights, and this just really played into their fear of tyranny by a too powerful government. The Federalists definitely had an advantage in getting their message across, and one of the biggest advantages they had is that the Federalists as a whole controlled the press. And there were 85 different Federalist Papers that were printed in New York newspapers, which provoked messages about why the Constitution as it currently stood should be the best thing. Some of these ideas included Federalist Paper 51, that fragmentation of political power ensures liberty. So basically there will be a separation of power. And Federalist 10 brought up this concept of factions, which today we know as interest groups. And as I mentioned, the Federalist Papers were primarily authored by Madison, Hamilton, and Jay. And because the Federalists controlled the press, they were able to get these papers printed and the message out to the general public and garner a lot of support and favor. And beginning in 1788, states began to ratify the Constitution. However, one final compromise was that there were in fact 10 amendments or changes that were added to the Constitution, and these 10 rights became known as the Bill of Rights, and we will see that we will go into the Bill of Rights much more in depth, but in the end, the Federalists were able to keep the Constitution intact as they added it, and then at the very end, the Anti-Federalists were able to get the Bill of Rights added. So it was kind of a win-win in the minds of both parties, and we will move on to